The first thing I really want to hit on is that Roth accounts are extremely valuable. I think a lot of times when people hear me say that, they think then that means I think everybody should do Roth all the time. Not true. I think the goal is to get as much money in Roth as possible, but at the right periods of time. And so what this typically looks like is early on in your life when you're in a lower income bracket, Roth 401ks, Roth IRAs make sense. Then, as you get to those 22, 24% bracket range, that is typically where I still think you should continue with Roth, especially if you're younger. If you're like in your 50s or 60s and you're just now touching those brackets, pre-tax might be better because you might be paying a higher tax now than you will in retirement. For most people, I think until you're in 32, 35, or 37, you probably should be doing a Roth. And then once you get to 32, 35, 37, that's where you kind of have a conversation around, is it time to start doing pre-tax and lowering my taxable income today? And this is where you would max out your pre-tax 401k, and then you would still do backdoor Roths because you're over the income limit to do a pre-tax. And then this is where the mega backdoor would come into play. But before we get into that, the other part I want to hit on is when I say that the goal is to get as much to Roth as possible at the right times, that also is hinting at Roth conversions. So Roth conversions are how you can pay tax and move money from pre-tax over to Roth. There's times throughout life that this is really advantageous. So let's say, I have clients, they're selling a business this year, next year, they're going to have a year off. Maybe the year after that, they're going to start a new business. They're going to go from 37 to having no income over those periods of time. That is a really good opportunity to say, I've been deferring at 35 or 37, and now I can fill up 0, 10, 12, 22, 24, and move over $400,000 or $500,000 each year. So let's say they had $2 million in pre-tax. Over 2 to 3 years, they could get over half of that into Roth. And by doing that, they maybe have an effective tax rate of 15 to 20% while they deferred at 37. Right? That is a great way to lower their effective tax rate. Getting to Roth is the goal. It's just at the right time, which means pay tax when you're in a lower bracket, defer when you're in a higher bracket, convert when you have lower brackets. And that is, post-business sales, could be sabbaticals, it could be moving to one income, it could be early retirement. There's a lot of different times in life where you want to be on top of Roth conversions and nail those and get more money to Roth. What's really cool about the Mega Backdoor Roth 401k is that it doesn't stop you from doing pre-tax. Let me explain how this works. The cool thing about Roth and why they're so impactful is because it gives you the ability to put after-tax money away and never pay tax on those dollars again. You get to invest this money. It grows tax-free. It can grow as much as it possibly can. Then you can take it out, don't pay income taxes, don't pay capital gains taxes. And if your kids inherit this money, then they get to let it continue to grow tax-free, and they can wait till 10 years, at the 10th year, to take all of that money out. When we talk about Roth, most people know that there's Roth IRAs or backdoor Roth IRAs that you can get $7,000 in if you're under the catch-up limit. And then there's Roth 401ks where you can get in $23,500. Basically $30,500 total. Maybe your spouse has these options and you can stack above that. But what most people don't know is that you can get an additional $46,500 into Roth accounts each year using the Mega Backdoor Roth 401k. Let me teach you everything that you need to know about this. Before I get into it, I just want to reiterate again the power of Roth. So you get to put in dollars after tax, so it does not reduce your taxable income today. This money then grows tax-free. Then you get to tax-free trade inside of the account, meaning no capital gains. A lot of times people hold on to the same investment because they're scared to sell because of all the taxes. Roth gets rid of that. And then you get to use it tax-free in the future post 59 and a half. Plus, your backdoor Roth, your Roth IRA, you can pull out those contributions anytime, just not the growth. The next thing that we just really need to think about is how do we best get into Roth? You have 3 ways. Roth IRAs or backdoor Roths, then you have Roth 401ks, and then you have the Mega Backdoor Roth 401k. If you utilized all 3 of those, realistically, you could get $77,000 into Roth this year. 7 through the backdoor Roth, $23,500 through Roth 401k, $46,500 from the Mega Backdoor Roth 401k. How do you do the Mega Backdoor? Does it apply to you? Do you have this option? Before we go into the steps, what you need to know is that you either need to be a business owner and have a solo 401k, or you have to have a 401k through your job that offers it. And so how it is offered is typically through this after-tax option. I will say that this is not allowed at a lot of places, and here's the reason. Most 401ks are considered safe harbor. Safe harbor means you've agreed on some set percentage that is fair to everybody. And because of doing that, there's no compliance testing. And if it's not safe harbor, then there's compliance testing. And they look and see, is this 401k mostly benefiting the high income employees? And if so, they'll reverse your contributions out. But when you have a safe harbor plan, you don't have to worry about that. But the Mega Backdoor does not follow that. So even if you have a safe harbor plan, if you add the Mega Backdoor, it has compliance testing. So typically you'll only find the Mega Backdoor at really large companies. Now that you understand the impact of it, how much you can put in, it's time to figure out if this is even an option for you. And we're going to start by talking about this if you're an employee. How to verify this is an option for you is you go log into your 401k and you go hit change contribution. And when you go to change contribution, you will see an after-tax option. So there's typically pre-tax, there's typically Roth, and then there's typically after-tax. You need to have the after-tax option for this to work. If you cannot figure this out, a lot of people can't, then what I want you to do is go reach out to your HR team. Basically want you to say, hey there, I recently read about this strategy called the Mega Backdoor Roth. I would love to do this, but I'm not sure if we have the ability. Does our 401k have an after-tax option? And then you also need to ask part two. If so, does it have the ability to convert these dollars to Roth? And this is really important because if you put money in the after-tax bucket and you never do anything with it, you pay income taxes on the growth. There is no reason in my mind to trap money in this after-tax bucket. I'd much rather put that money in a taxable account and pay capital gains than have to pay income taxes on the growth. So make sure you ask about that. The total amount you can put into a 401k per year is $70,000 if you're under age 55. And so $23,500 can go directly into either the pre-tax 401k or the Roth 401k. And then you're going to have an employer match. Let's say you have an employer match of $6,500. So $23,500 plus $6,500 means that you've put in $30,000 total. You now have $70,000 minus that $30,000 of room left. So you have $40,000 of room left to do the Mega Backdoor Roth. And then now you need to look at what you can afford. Obviously, everybody cannot afford putting $40,000 in. A lot of my clients can, and they do. And this is super impactful because $40,000 plus their backdoor Roths, with a spouse, $54,000 of Roth dollars a year is something you're gonna be really happy about 30 or 40 years from now. I'll be honest, for most people that are utilizing the Mega Backdoor, they are very high income folks. Getting 40,000 Mega Backdoor plus 23,500, either pre-tax or Roth plus backdoor Roths, maybe HSA plus taxable accounts, you need to have a lot of income to do this. So pretty much all of my clients that are doing this, which are mostly who I work with, are in the 37% bracket. Because they're in the 37% bracket, we want to reduce taxes as much as we can today. It is very hard in retirement to touch anywhere close to 37, and especially to be an effective rate of 37. What they do is they typically use that 23,500 to do pre-tax. They typically use their HSA to do pre-tax as well. And now they're left with post-tax dollars. We can either go to taxable or we can go to tax-free. For most of them, right, we want to go to tax-free. We talked about this. They're paying 20% long-term capital gains, 3.8% net investment tax, potentially 5 to 13.3% state tax. So the amount of capital gains you avoid in Roth is super advantageous. They'll max out this pre-tax 401k. They'll use all their pre-tax options. Then they'll go to Roth. Then they'll go to taxable. Never paying taxes again is a lot better than paying capital gains taxes later down the line. Now that they figured out, hey, I've maxed my pre-tax, I got my match, I have 40,000 remaining to do the after-tax contribution, they're going to start doing this. And this has to be done via payroll if you're an employee. You can't just take 40,000 of cash and put it in. We have a lot of clients who are very cash heavy. And what we have them do is basically funnel that cash back to their checking account because this contribution is going to put them in a monthly deficit. But that's okay. They're basically taking cash, putting that into taxable. Just the only way to do that is to live off of that cash and have a deficit on a monthly basis. When you convert to Roth, it depends on your plan. Some of them have this picture right here where there's like a button you press and it auto converts to Roth once you select it. So contribution goes to after tax, it instantly gets over. This is the best. It's not as common. The next one is that you're going to have to call the 401k company and say, hey, I would love to have my after-tax 401k converted to Roth. And, one of two things is going to happen. One, they're going to say, great, we have the instructions set up. It'll happen every time. Or they're going to say, hey, great, you actually have to call every time you want this done. And so this is the least advantageous one. Like I said, let's say you put in 40,000 at the end of the year, it's worth 45. You pay income taxes on the 5,000 of growth, but you still had growth. You still got $45,000 into Roth. So obviously still very advantageous. Typically for my clients, it's not worth their time to call every paycheck or call once a month. They either call twice a year or once a year after our annual review, get it converted over. At the end of the day, it is about getting that money into Roth and letting it grow tax-free forever. That's how you do it if you're an employee. If you're a business owner, pretty much only going to work if you have a solo 401k. If you have a solo 401k, you have the ability to do this. A lot of times it makes sense. For a lot of my high income earners, they're getting all 70,000 in pre-tax. But let's say, you're not there and you can only get in 30 or 40,000 pre-tax. They get to fill up the rest of the room via Mega Backdoor, which is really cool because let's say you own an S Corp and you make your salary 70,000. You can get in 23,500 on the employee side. Then you can get in 25% of your wages. So 25% of 70 in on the employer side pre-tax. And then you can get in the 70,000 salary minus those two numbers via Mega Backdoor. If you only made 60, then you can only get up to 60. This is something that's really, really advantageous. And it's something that you want to take advantage of. The Mega Backdoor is all about getting more money into Roth per year and avoiding capital gains down the line. It's one of your best tools that's out there. See if it's available for you and see if it fits your life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and go follow my page for more personal finance content. And as always, if you have any thoughts, please leave it in the comments below, and I promise to get back to each individual comment. See you next week.